Hello and welcome to Senior Connections. My name is Mike McCrackin. Today on Senior Connections we're going to be talking about volunteerism. It's one of my favorite subjects. And I'm particularly pleased and excited because we have a volunteer that's going to be working with us today and volunteering as a guest host. So allow me to introduce Darlyne Behan, who is an RSVP volunteer host. We're going to find a little bit more about the RSVP program as the program goes on. So Darlyne, thank you for being here with us today. And I'm going to throw her right in the hot seat and ask her to take over most of the interviews today. And I hope she enjoys herself. Darlyne, it's all yours for a while.
We're really lucky to have a group of people with us today to explain some of the volunteer opportunities we have here in Missoula. Our first guest is Vicki Bostic. She's the Missoula Senior Service Corps Program Specialist. Vicki, would you explain to us some of the things that Senior Corps represents?
Missoula Senior Service Corps is an alliance of nearly 500 volunteers who work in the community as volunteers in foster grandparent, senior companion, and RSVP volunteer program. Those volunteers are age 55 and older who use a lifetime of experiences to solve critical issues for the community in the areas of education, human needs, the environment, and public safety.
So can you explain a bit about each program for us, Vicki?
Sure. The foster grandparent program is a program where seniors go into the community in the areas of maybe the elementary schools, the high schools, Head Start. They also are in daycares. And the goal is to work one-on-one with children. They often spend their time tutoring children, but of course that's only the beginning of what they do. Here again, I said one-on-one, but past that, they often work in small groups, or even with the entire classroom if they're working on a project. But with the idea that often the children just need a little bit more time when someone can sit and listen to them, maybe even the fact that they don't have a grandparent and there's someone who can spend a little extra time with them. But it's often children who are in critical need of the extra time that they can spend with them reading, or at the high school level, often the grandparents that are involved there use their own life experiences to help, say, with metilating. A class where a high school teacher tells us that if it weren't for the extra set of hands and experiences and eyes, many of those kids that are critically in need of the extra time and maybe couldn't stay in class without an extra person in the classroom are able to be there. The grandparents also spend time mentoring with the students, whether they're the young students or the older ones. Then we have a few grandparents who say, give me babies, I want babies. And they would love to go into a daycare situation and be able to spend time one-on-one with the little ones who maybe are in a setting where there's too many babies to be held that hour. So the grandparents spend quite a bit of time, like I said, in many different settings, one-on-one with the children. The Senior Companion Program, the goal of that program is to help other seniors remain as independent as possible. And they do that in a variety of ways. They may go into their home and help them read. Maybe they have problems with macular degeneration and need help with day-to-day reading of their bills, or just with some social things that come in. They might be going into the community with them to help buy groceries or get to a doctor's appointment, maybe even make the appointments for them. And then other times when they would just like a social outing, when maybe they have family who can be pretty good to them about getting the groceries for them, but getting a chance to go look for a dress for themselves or do something that they would particularly like to do, or have a social outing of going to lunch. Maybe they don't get the chance to go in the community. So that is pretty much a situation where many of our seniors are homebound, and that senior companion is the only person they might see for a few days. And they go in and spend time, or maybe even go buy the groceries for them if they're homebound. And other times the seniors are very anxious to have a chance to get out in the community a little bit. So they do any number of projects with them. And then RSVP, which stands for the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, is such a wide array. These volunteers use many of their lifetime experiences and skills in areas maybe where they've worked in the past, or possibly they say, I don't want to do what I've done all my life. I would like to do some of the things I've never gotten a chance to do. And they use those experiences to go and help agencies, not to replace paid staff, but to be there to do some of the things the agency may never have a chance to do otherwise. And in those areas, they are often, they're in the police department, They're at the schools. Here again, many of the tutors are not foster grandparents, but they are RSVP tutors. They are at the Humane Society, at the food bank, they're in the hospitals, many small agencies that maybe have just one project a year. For an example, First Night, RSVP volunteers spend time with First Night. So just a huge variety of projects with about 100 local agencies in our community that are mostly nonprofit.
Are there special qualifications and skills that are necessary to volunteer?
There are. The foster grandparent and the senior companion programs have, because it is a stipend volunteer program, have some specifications that must be met. Those particular volunteers must be 60 years of age, living on a limited income, and willing to volunteer 20 hours a week. And then, as I said, for that they receive a stipend. The RSVP program is a little bit different. Those volunteers are age 55 and older, and they choose to volunteer as many or as little hours as they would like. There are situations where a volunteer can maybe give 1 hour a month, or if they're tutoring in the schools, maybe they give 1 hour a week on a set schedule. And other volunteers who are just very active and possibly can only do one project a year, and they might just spend a few hours. We have lots of our volunteers who don't just choose one project. They may be working in 3 or 4 different settings of things they enjoy doing. So that's the real beauty of that program, is that they can choose to volunteer as much or as little as they would like. And it's not a qualification for the program, but one of the real pluses to all 3 of the programs is that we provide insurance for our volunteers, which is really a nice plus. They can know that they can volunteer in the community at no cost to themselves. If anything were to happen, there's an excess liability policy that would cover them.
Great. Well, how can we find out more information about this, Vicki?
There is a whole team of us. The Senior Service Corps involves 4 people, and myself or any of my teammates can be called at Missoula Aging Services, and that number is 728-7682. And if you're unsure which of the programs you would fit in or which you would like to do, that is what we do. We have an interview process set up, and we walk you through all the steps to find out what it is you'd truly like to do. And just by calling us at Missoula Aging Services, we can start that process at any time.
Sounds great. Thanks, Vicki.
Thank you.
We have some volunteers with us today to explain some of the ways they have contributed to our community. First, I would like to introduce you to each one, and then we'll let each one tell his own story. We have Sheila Bland, Den Morrison, Ethel Dietert, and David Kester. I want to thank you all for sharing your time with us today. We'll begin with Sheila, who's been a foster grandparent since 1998. Sheila?
Yes, it's a real good program, and I really love children. I have 14 grandchildren of my own, and 1 great. But and I like to work with the 6-year-olds or the kindergarten. It seems like they need special hugs. I'm a huggable person. I love to give them hugs. So right now I'm working with approximately 60 of them. And if they see me in the store, they'll run up to me and just give me hugs, you know. And it seems like I just can't get enough of them. And I'm at Target Range School, and it's a wonderful school. I really, really like it. And they treat me real good. In fact, I think it's about 2 years ago, they even gave me my own parking place. So it's got my name on it, and nobody else can get in there, and if they do, they're in trouble. So if it hadn't have been for finding out about the foster grandparents, I think I would have been lost, because I lost my husband around that time, and I just did not know what to do with myself. And this just opened up a whole new world for me. And I really love everybody at the office there and the school. And
That sounds great.
really like it.
Well, what keeps you coming back for more?
What keeps me coming
Yeah.
back? It
Yeah.
seems like when Friday comes along, I'm wishing that it was Monday,
Great.
because, like I say, I love these little kids.
Good.
Can't get enough of them.
Our next person is Den Morrison. He's been a foster grandparent since 1999. Den, can you tell us, our viewers, why you volunteer?
Well, why I volunteered is really very simple, because I love the children. That's prime for me. Um, it was somewhere in the dim and distant past of my own life, somebody, when they knew I was approaching retirement, said, well, a little bit of advice, Morrison. If you're wondering what you're going to do with yourself, remember this. He said, I've got to get these words exactly right here. Don't say that you are giving up something. Say that you're starting up something. And I think that's good advice. I've put it rather clumsily. But you know, working with these children is just a joy. And little anecdotes pop up. I was telling you one a moment ago, a few minutes ago. Very recently, Valentine's Day, we foster grandparents are included in their mailing lists. They always send us foster Valentine cards. And this little guy, I can't use any names, but this little guy who is a third grader and having an awful lot of difficulty with his work because it's just beyond him, but he's doing well. And his Valentine arrived on my desk, and I opened it up, and it says simply, "You cheer me up." That was it.
You can't ask for more than that.
You cheer me up. That was just one example. I think that I'd go start raving mad if I didn't have this job to do. It's occupying my time, and I think it's fruitful. It's fruitful from both sides. Bit clumsy being cold on the television.
You're doing just fine.
Well, it sounds like your life is enriched, and so are the children.
Very much so.
And we obviously know what keeps you coming back for more. We'll go now to Ethel Dietert. Ethel has been with the RSVP program since 1990. Ethel, can you tell us why you volunteer?
Well, I retired in July of '89 and decided I didn't want to vegetate. And so I heard about RSVP. Some of my friends were with it, and I decided to go down and find out about it. And since then, I've found many, many different people that I've enjoyed, and many, many different people that have made my life a lot more interesting. I have called to get people for programs for Helen. I have worked with short-term mailings. My two that I'm with now is the Missoula Youth Homes and the Big Brothers and Sisters. And I go there maybe every couple of months and help with the bowl-a-thon for the Big Brothers and Sisters. I've worked on the carousel for Missoula since probably the second year that it started in existence. I did a lot of sanding. And I still run the platform down there every now and again. The International Chorale, when they come through and sing from all different nations. I've done reception work at the reception desk for conventions or meetings, and that's always fun to meet those people that come in, regardless of what they're here for. I've done the flu shootout at the Senior Citizen Center. The biggies, I guess, the long terms, which I don't really consider myself as a long-term person because it just seems like it's something you have to do. But for, I think, 7 years now, we've been with First Night Missoula. And we go down every every Tuesday and Wednesday for a couple of hours and help out through the year. And that's just lots of fun. And then the other biggie is the Hellgate Elementary, which we go to the third grade. My husband and I is why I say why. We go to the third grade out at Helmgate Elementary every Tuesday for a couple of hours, and they are just delightful. They see you at Dairy Queen in Ronan, and they run up and hug you. And I always wonder about the parents, what they're thinking. They know who I am. So I have to quickly explain who I am and why I know your daughter or son. And it's just, I got a call, maybe 3 or 4 years ago about supper time, and I said hello, and this man said, "Are you Ethel?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I understand you do a lot of volunteering, and I'm with the Rural Fire Department, and I would like to have you volunteer for us." And I said, "Well, what would I do?" And he said, "Well, fight fires, of course." And I said, "Do you know how old I am?" And he said, "Oh, yes, I do." And I said, "Do you think I could do it?" And he said, "Oh, of course." And about that time, my son in Spokane couldn't stand it any longer, and he just burst out laughing. So it's quite a joke with my volunteering from that point of view. But I have really enjoyed it, and I would just thoroughly recommend it to anybody that is retired or not retired but has time on their hands to go down, and you can do most anything you want to do. You can have a 5-day-a-week job. You can have a once every 2 months job, but you sure meet a lot of nice people.
You do. We'll go to David Kester now, and he's been a volunteer since 1992.
I'm glad you told me. I wasn't sure when I started.
That's a long time. Great. Can you tell us why you volunteered, David?
Well, I actually retired in 1989, thinking I was going to play golf and travel. And you can't imagine the immense amount of time that comes your way when you quit working. You know, when you work 40, 50 hours a week, and all of a sudden it's zero, and you have a lot of time on your hands. So my wife and I went down and saw Helen and signed up for RSVP. And the reason we did that was to fill our time, and we feel we owed it to the general public. We've been taken care of and everything, so that's why we did that. And I actually participate in 2 programs that are in the aging. One of them is called AIMS, which stands for Advocates in Medicare Savings. This is a program that's designed to educate the people on the extent of fraud and abuse in the Medicare system. And our purpose is to lecture to professional groups such as Rotary and Lions and Kiwanis, and also go to senior citizens' homes and do PowerPoint presentations, which we hope helps reduce the size of this cost, which is billions of dollars that are lost every year. And the other one, of course, is RSVP, which is our reason for being here mainly. And in this, there's 2 kinds of programs that I participate in. One are the ones that they give you a call and they need somebody for a receptionist for a one-time shot, or you're an usher at the movie theater for the film festival or something like that. And then there's the other kind, which is a continuous thing. They need somebody that'll come in once a week or twice a week on a regular scheduled program. And I work with the police department on that. And what I do is take care of making sure that the trunks on those police cars have their necessary equipment in there, and we keep it stocked. And then we keep the cars clean. We get to take them to the washing thing, and people go by and see this guy in a Montana hat and can't figure out what I'm doing in a police car. And there are 3 things that we're not allowed to do in those cars. And one of them is monkey with a siren. And the other one are the guns. And the third is the radio. And I was in the Air Force, and I used to communicate VHF radio like they have in these cars. So when I got in the car the very first time, I got in it and was taking the car out of the lot, so I thought I'd better check. So I picked up the radio and called and said, "This is a 396. I'm taking unit number so-and-so over." And the person came back and said, "Say again?" They informed me very quickly to leave the radio alone. Then I work on the river run, the YMCA river run for registrations and things like that. They have an endless bounty of these things that are available for you to do. And when we first joined, we filled out an application and let them know a little bit of what our interests were, so they had it on file. Then they seem to get used to the people and know what they like to do and what they don't. And they call us, and you can turn it down or you can take it. It's and they seem extremely well organized. They're on a computer. They just sent us a report. Ethel has one here that tells us the total hours we've worked for them and volunteer, what we did and where we were, the dates of that. I was amazed when this came out. But that's about the extent of it. And the reason I keep coming back is they keep calling me. And I'm happy with that.
Great, and it makes your line full.
Yes.
And may I add something to that?
Sure.
David has served over 900 hours during the time that he's been with RSVP.
Oh, you have my sheet there.
Yes, I do. 936 to be exact. And Ethel has served over 1,500 hours. It's just amazing to me that, these are RSVP volunteers who choose their projects as they go. And when they're doing that, and David mentioned a little bit about it, and I think Ethel did too, but how they accomplish that is after they've sat down with us and given us some ideas of the things they might want to do, then we have what we call job descriptions. The actual sites, whether it be for the food bank or whomever it might be, says we have a need for a volunteer to do this, and then they give us the information. If there are specific hours involved, we ask that we know that. If it's fluid with the volunteer schedule, then we know that as well. Or what is it that you would need them to do? And then by giving us that information, our volunteers become really, they become savvy real fast as to knowing what they want to do and how they want to go about it. And then we have that information for them so that we can send it out to them or give it to them when they come in. And they know right off the top whether it's something that would be of interest to them. What is the goal of that program? What is it they're looking for me to do? So those job descriptions, I think, are helpful for the volunteers.
They're very complete. They give you the total hours commitment, where you're going to be trained, what you're going to do, so it's an excellent sheet.
Good. So I think that is helpful, and for people that are coming into the program, then it's nice for them to know that it is going to be organized, and they will know ahead of time what would be expected of them or what might be involved. So it can be pretty helpful. And then back to the hours for a moment, both of our senior companion and our foster grandparents, because of the regulation of 20 hours a week, then they spend 1,044 hours a year with us volunteering. So it really is. And for the 3 programs in this past year, our volunteers have given the Missoula County 115,000 hours. And I say it a lot, I speak often in the community, and it still absolutely makes me, I'm just amazed at what a wonderful corps of volunteers we have and how much is accomplished. And I think sometimes it's easy for the community to be aware of the services that are needed for seniors, and maybe you're not aware of what seniors are giving back to our community. And we recognize that our volunteers are not the only ones in the community. We're probably just the tip of the iceberg, but it is nice to have Missoula County, no other agency, Missoula Aging Services is the only agency that actually is able to track what our volunteers are doing and show the community as a whole what we're giving back. And so that's one of the real pluses is that we're able to track that information for them and for us.
Right.
Vicki,
That's great.
another thing that I want to stress is that you do not have to feel bad if you don't like this project. And when I call, I get a lot of no's, but that's fine because everybody has their own interest. But you know that if you say no 4 times, they're not going to stop calling you.
You're right.
No, we're going to keep calling until you say yes.
And until you say yes is truly when it fits your schedule and your
And
time.
what you like to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are situations where people begin to volunteer and it just is not what they're enjoying doing, and they realize that they are able to say, this is not what I want to do, I would like
That's
to
right.
move on. And
But we
that's
will
part of what
call.
we do as a team with the Senior Service Corps, is to find those niches for people, because we know that people are not continuing to volunteer for us for 20 years. Literally, I have volunteers right now that I know personally that have been with us for over 20 years. And that doesn't happen unless they're enjoying what
Yeah,
they do.
that's right.
And we know that. So that's our true job, is to find what really works for the volunteers and what will make you want to come back and keep doing things for us and for the community.
Vicki, would you tell us a bit more about the Senior Companion Program?
I would
Or
be
have
glad
you
to.
filled us in enough on that, or?
Well, I'm sorry to say that our volunteer, in fact, probably forgotten, is with a client right now, and that's probably why he's not here with us today. But I think it is an important program that is really kind of hard probably for me to explain as well as a senior would do, but they do spend that time one-on-one with a client that gives them the opportunity to do what it is they need to do in the community. And like I said, many times if they're homebound, that is strictly just to help meet their needs, read their mail. Maybe they have trouble actually being able to write out a check, and that person can help them do that. But oftentimes it's a chance for them to be the link to the community. They might even be going out into the community and doing things for them or bringing information back for them. And they do fill in a really important void. And how it works is we have agencies, nonprofit agencies within the community, for an example, Partners in Home Care, APS, some of the different agencies like Hunter's Glen, different agencies like that who know clients who would really benefit from having a senior companion. And they then have companions that work for their site, and they link them to the client because they know their client base and help them understand what those clients' needs are. And they're the link then for them. And in many cases, the companion is the only link they have to their client on a regular maybe once a month basis. They don't see their clients on a regular basis, and the companion does. So the companion becomes the eyes and the ears to what's going on in the community for those people. If their health is failing, or they're seeing some changes in maybe their cognitive memory or something of that nature, then they become that link. They become the person who helps the agency know that maybe they need to take a closer look and keep an eye on that person. And then others go on for years and just are literally waiting at the doorstep, ready to get out into the community and do something for that maybe once in the week that they get to do that. So the companion fills a huge void for many of those clients that would not happen otherwise, and become that person that helps them remain independent.
That's great. Do any of you have something you'd like to add, that some of this has triggered an incident that you'd like to share with us?
Well, actually, we'll give you your opportunity to talk directly to the people out there and convince them they need to come and be volunteers with you. We have a volunteer who wants to say that.
Well, I think that if you feel yourself that you're not doing anything anymore, you feel lonesome, and you meet lots of people, really interesting people, and just give a call. Just come down and see them.
See what we do in person.
And that's something else that we have started that we think has worked really well, is that we often do have someone new who's going to begin work for a couple of days with another volunteer, so that they don't feel as though they have to be worried about what they would do and how they would do it. And volunteers do not need any past experience. That is not necessary. All of the areas, whether it be tutoring, and I've had grandparents say to me, but I don't know how to do their math nowadays. And I've tried to tell them it really is not important, that the teachers will make sure that they have any information they need to help them out. But there is no experience needed for any of the jobs that we do. If you do have past experiences in that area and can use your skills, that's great. But if it's an area new to you and you're just interested in finding out more about it and volunteering in that area, that's really not a problem either, because we always have people who are willing to orient you to the process, whether it be working in the schools with students in an area that maybe isn't something you've done before. Maybe you've never done any tutoring. Like Ethel, had you and Jerry ever tutored before you went into the
They call
schools?
us tutors. But what we do is we do their book reports, and if there's nothing going on, we will let them read to us. But we do lots of arts and crafts, and we do a lot of hugging. We always get a Christmas present from them, and we always get thank you letters from them. We take them in treats about once a month. But we do find that we now have students that are in the 6th grade at the middle school. But we find that we never get promoted. Nobody gets held back but us. But you know, if you volunteer, the television's getting so bad. You don't want to sit in front of a television all day. You don't want to clean house all day, and you don't want to cook all day. But just to get out and move around is fantastic. Just to have something to do, something to wake up to.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, Vicki
Thank you.
and Sheila, Dan, Ethel, David.
You're welcome.
Want to thank you for dropping in with us today, and we'll see you next time.
Well, thank you very much, Darlene. I think you did a great job on today's show. I hope you'll come back and do it again with us. I want to thank our volunteers for being here today and talking about volunteerism. It's so American to be a volunteer, and particularly after some of the things that have happened recently, we really see volunteerism coming to the fore. We didn't talk about it very much, but if you want to talk to any of the folks here at Missoula Aging Services, Vicki or one of her people, about volunteer opportunities, be sure and call Missoula Aging Services at 728-7682, 728-7682, or stop by the new facility on Stevens, which I think is 337 Stevens, 337 Stevens.
Yes.
It's very easy to get to. There's great parking, and it's right on the bus route. The bus stops right in front of the building. So stop in and talk to them about these volunteer opportunities. There's obviously an opportunity to volunteer for an hour a month or as long as you think you have the time to do it, and there really is no excuse for just sitting around and thinking the world's passing you by. There's great opportunities. You heard just some of the things you can do. The list is much longer than this. So take the opportunity to call 728-7682, talk to the folks at Missoula Aging Services, or visit them and get involved in one of these volunteer programs or a similar program. They're great. Again, thank you for being with us today. This has been Senior Connections. Thank you for being with us also. Bye now.